Brad, can you hear us?
I can.
And we can hear you.
That was very powerful, so we need to do something with the volume here. Can you say something again?
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Very loud.
I will try to be more soft-spoken.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Although I know it's very difficult for a lawyer to do that, but can you lower it a little? Okay, super. Okay. Everybody good? Yes. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, members of the Ways and Means Committee, I would hereby like to call the Town of Kiowa Island Ways and Means Committee meeting of October 24th, 2023 to order. I'm sorry?
It's December.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did I miss it? That's what it says.
See, this is what happens when you just read from the paper. So, okay, I'm sorry. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. Okay, and I'm retired. I'm not used to that anymore. So, all right. So again, call to order the Ways and Means Committee meeting of December 19th, 2023. Thank you. May I please ask everybody to raise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Petra, your roll call, please.
Chairman Henningselder?
Yes.
Mayor Lavarella?
Here.
Mr. Bell? He's here. Go ahead. Yeah. Ms. Brunner?
Present.
Ms. Tosin? Here. Ms. Schubert?
All right. Very good. Citizen comments. If there are any, do we have a list, Petra, or are we just going by?
Yeah, I'll bring you in that
Okay.
little sheet.
All right.
Good morning, Maura McElvain, 146 Blue Heron Pond Road. I wanted to talk about the only item on the agenda, which is the proposed amendment to the contract for the town attorney. I have a general comment, which I'm actually going to leave to the end. And two
I cannot hear Ms. McElvain. I don't know if her mic is on.
Can you hear me now, Brad? Can you hear me, Brad?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. So I rise to talk about the proposed amendment to the town attorney contract. I have a general comment, which I'll make at the end, and then two specific observations and comments about the draft. On the draft itself, the change in paragraph 1, extended term, to paragraph 5 of the original contract from October says that the agreement will commence upon signing and continue through the date of the first meeting in April. I rise merely to say, what if a new town attorney is actually hired and on board before that? I think you might want to change that language to up until or you know, as long as, or somehow modify that language so it makes clear that the town will not be paying the current town attorney if a replacement town attorney is on board anytime before the first meeting in April. Now, on paragraph 2, the change in compensation rate, I note the following. The current town attorney contract has a 60-day notice provision, meaning if the town wants to terminate, they have to give him 60 days. And similarly, the town attorney has to give 60 days. The way this amendment is structured is he gave notice on December 6th, but starting on January 1st, we'll have a rate increase of $100 per hour. If you are going to enforce the provisions of his existing contract, it seems to me he should get paid his current rate through the 60 days. And then if you choose to raise it subsequent to early February, after the 60 days is run, That's obviously your choice, but I do think you have a contractual commitment that he will get paid $200 an hour through 60 days from termination. So that's my second substantive comment. Now, my general comment. The notice of termination came to the town administrator, not to the town attorney's client, not to town council. And that has raised, in my mind, something that has been obvious to me, which is the town council should and is the town attorney's client, but is not always treated as such. The town council appoints the town attorney, and the town attorney represents only the council, not staff, not the town administrator or anyone else. Ordinances and statutes make that clear. And you may say, well, why does it matter? Stephanie's our town administrator. She tells us what's going on. It matters for two reasons. One is potentially client confidences may not be as privileged if they go through a third party. So you may have a privilege issue that's created by not having direct communications with your town attorney. But it's also for your protection. Every time you have a question, if you give it to the town administrator and then the town administrator gives it to the town attorney and then the town attorney comes back to the town administrator and then it comes back to you, you can't be sure your question was asked properly or the way you meant it to be, and that the answer's coming back is responsive to what you've asked. The best way to protect yourselves, in my estimation, is to have the town attorney communicate directly with the town council and have you ask the questions if you have any. That's a cleaner way to do it. And frankly, it's to protect you. And that's my general comment. Often when I stand up here, people's body language changes. It's like, oh, here she comes. Or a number of other members of our community. I don't stand up here to tell you that you're going to enact an ordinance in violation of state statute because that's what I want to say, or that's what I want the public to know I know and you don't know. I don't expect you to know it. I expect someone who's hired to protect you to know it and to tell you so you don't make that error. I stand here because you're not being told the ordinance you're about to pass is illegal. You need a town attorney who will protect you and tell you everything you need to know, because I don't expect you to know everything. I really don't. But I don't stand here for the jollies of telling you someone's wrong. I stand here to try to make sure you don't get sued. Because if you get sued, we're all in the hopper with you. Thank you.
All right. Brad, you would be next.
Excuse me, Brad McElvain, 146 Blue Heron Pond Road. Following up with more with the town attorney represents the council. One of the things I just want to relate, this is, I view as an opportunity for you. When I was on KICA, the KICA board, I had some issues with the attorneys that we'd hired. And we went out and we hired new attorneys. One of the things I was told was, well, you can't find somebody. They're just not available in Charleston. I found out that was not true. I found out that we could find very good attorneys, and we did hire very good attorneys. And luckily, KICA continues to use those attorneys. And one of the things that I was commenting to the lead attorney for KICA, that, you know, I'm not sure he was happy, you know, whether it was good that he got hired by KICA with all the issues and stuff like that. And he said, but, you know, I represent the board. And that's an important thing. The attorney represents, in that instance, they represent the entire KICA board, not a faction of the board, not one person of the board. They represent the entire board. And that's the thing for the town council. It represents whoever your new attorney is, he or she should represent the entire board, not a faction of the board, not one or two people on the board, and certainly not staff members. They represent the council and the entire council. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list would be Alex. You know? Anybody else? Anybody else would like to speak? No? All right. So we have no old business. New business is the review and recommendation to the town council, the approval of the continuation of Joe Wilson as the town attorney for the 3 months starting January 1st, 2024 through March 31st, 2024 at a rate of $300 per hour. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Brad, we cannot hear you.
Thank you. I'm sorry I was muted. Just want to confirm that the requested dollar amount is a 50% increase over his current hourly compensation rate. Is that correct?
I think so.
Okay. And what is it that we are currently paying on an hourly basis to our outside counsel, Ross Appel?
300.
$300.
Pardon?
$300 an hour.
Okay, I would propose, in light of, I think Ms. McIlvaine made a very good observation, and it may not be that big a deal as a practical matter, but I would propose a modest amendment to the term paragraph when it says, and expiring on March 31, 2024, or the retention of a new town attorney, whichever is earlier.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, actually.
Yeah, I would be okay with that too.
The one thing that I guess you all may want to consider, if you want to make that change, but one of the things that we did with the other attorneys, that we at least had some time to overlap. So if,
I can't hear you, Stephanie.
I don't think my mic is working. Can you hear me okay when I speak?
Yes, I can
Oh,
now.
okay.
I can, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I said the one thing that we did before with the previous attorney is that we did create some overlap. So when one attorney left, when Joe Wilson came on board to take over Dwayne Green, we did keep Dwayne Green on for a short period to allow the transfer of information, or if any questions or comments or concerns. So we can, of course, make that change to the term, but that was the thinking behind that, was to give, because right now what we have set in the RFQ is that the town council could appoint by the March 5th date. And then this will allow the new attorney time to catch up and work with the old attorney. But
So that is not an unreasonable position, Stephanie. I guess the question then would be, what if we don't have a candidate retained by March 5th or March 6th? Are you suggesting that we continue to extend this contract to provide some overlap, or it's not critical in every instance that there be overlap?
I think if you don't have, well, I think we can address that
When it happens.
when it happens.
Yeah.
If for some reason we feel we don't have someone by then we can address it at that time. But with this contract, we'll at least have someone through March 31st.
It may be best just to leave it alone. We understand visions, this particular moment in time with the holidays, we don't know what the response is. We're just talking about dates. It may just be easier just to leave it alone. I don't think either Joe or the new attorney is going to want to have too much overlap. They'll work that out. This just says that it's going to be for 90 days.
So, Brad, are you concerned that, we would be able to find a new lawyer faster than 3 months? I mean, looking at,
I don't know. That's a fair question. I said, I'm not sure this is that significant of an issue as a practical matter. And I don't feel particularly strongly about it. If we were going out with an RFP and all of a sudden, everybody lined up and we had somebody by the end of January, which I suspect is not realistic, then we might want to avoid paying double for an extra month or two. But I suspect, given our schedule, that's not realistic. So in light of the discussion, I will withdraw my proposed amendment.
and to add to this, Brad, my understanding is that he works for $300 an hour based on what we ask Joe to do. If we don't have anything to do for him anymore, then there is no hour to pay for, right? So I think we have all the flexibility we need in that respect.
Well, we would be calling upon him because obviously the town attorney would still have to attend per ordinance various meetings. So he still would be called upon. Whether we call upon him for additional legal advice and counsel beyond that, of course, is an open question.
Yeah, okay. But you're okay to leave it, the wording the way it is? Right.
Yes, I withdrew my amendment.
And then I
And then-
think you made the second, Russell?
Not for his
No,
amendment,
the mayor made second. But Brad, let me ask you this. The second comment was about the 60-day period. So would we need to amend this amendment, so to speak, that the first 60 days since resignation would be at $200 and then after that would be at $300?
I did not, that was not part of my motion that I withdrew.
So you're okay in that respect to start with the $300 on January 1st?
My view is that since adequate notice wasn't provided, that it's not appropriate for the town attorney to request an additional rate during the period for which he was required to provide notice. I'm certainly happy to offer an amendment to that, or simply to vote no on the revised dollar amount. I will defer to the wisdom of my colleagues on that matter.
I would not agree with that, Brad, because the term of the original contract was through December, and the term of the original contract would include the rate of $200 an hour. So I think that would define when the term expires, and a new rate then would be negotiated.
And that's a not unreasonable position, Russ, and that's why I didn't offer an amendment with regard to that particular the compensate paragraph 2.
Okay, any more discussion? No? All in favor? Aye.
I'm
No.
Okay, that concludes new business. Committee members' comments? Mayor? None? Russ?
no, thank you.
Brad, any comments?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Citizen comments? No, I don't see anything. Then just a personal comment from my side to Joe. I know we have not always been on the same page, but I always appreciated your fond, straightforward opinion. That always helped us. No matter if we agreed or not agreed, but it was always a very professional conversation we had. So thank you. I know that you belong to a profession where it is common that you are in a room with a lot of people that think they know better. Like in the corporate world, in the boardroom, you always have a lot of people that know much more than you or me at that time. It's a little unusual that we have a community within the community that think they know better. So that's just the time we live in. But thanks for your service, and thank you for helping us bridge the time until we have a new council. Thank you. Meeting adjourned?
So moved. Second.
Thank you.
5 minutes to.
Brad, we are just waiting for the mayor. We can't hear you, but I hope you can hear us. Oh, okay.
So I'm trying to figure out if we can do it or not.
Good morning. I'd like to call our meeting to order.
Because I would want to attend as well, just to help him.
So what,
Aaron?
am I live? Yeah, okay. Petra? Okay. Roll call.
I cannot hear Petra, so I don't know when and if my name is called.
Any second, Brad.
Mayor
Okay.
Labriola,
Here.
Mr. Belt,
Here,
Mr. Berner,
remotely.
Here.
Mr. Heidingsfelder,
Here.
Ms. Tillerson, Mr. Wilson.
Okay, citizen comments, please. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning again. Maura McIlvaine, 146 Blue Heron Pond Road. I'm going to give a truncated reiteration of what I said earlier at Ways and Means, with one exception. Mr. Berner, I'm well aware of the term of the current contract of the town attorney, but it says it terminates on December 31, 2023, and then if not terminated by that date, extends year to year. So I actually think the 60 days is still relevant, but I understand the Ways and Means vote. The only other thing I'd like to say is what I said at the very end of my Ways and Means comments. And it's really brought into focus because at the end, Dr. Heidingsfelder had to make a dig about community members who know better. I swear to you, Doctor, it is not because people know better. It is because they see issues you don't see. You are a PhD in physics. I don't know anything about physics. I do know things about law. Other people in the community know things about law and real estate and transfers. And they are trying to help you, not to show you up, not to show any member of this council up, but trying to help the community. So, again, you don't get sued. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Anyone else? Alex?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Alex Fernandez, 418 Snow Egret. I want to address the issue on the agenda on the executive session. I'm not speaking for the Kika board, but I am expressing my beliefs and opinion as an individual Kika board member and homeowner. I have read the development agreement sections pertaining to Captain Sam Spit or Parcel 12B. It is my belief that there are obligations that are yet to be fulfilled by the Kiwa Development Partners under Section 16F. Kika Legal Counsel agrees, and a letter, which is public and not client privilege, has been sent to the partners. I ask that the town council take the necessary steps to assure that Kiwa Development Partners comply with the conveyance to Kika as outlined in the development agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. One more?
Brad McIlvaine, 146 Blue Heron Pond Road. I won't reiterate what I said in the Ways and Means, except that to reiterate that obtaining a new attorney is an opportunity for this council. And it is important that the attorney represents the entire council. Mr. Fernandez just pointed out that, the Kika's attorney had come to a conclusion. That was an attorney that we hired and is very experienced, very knowledgeable. And so I would ask that you think about that, think about and make sure that you consider it, because it should be considered. It isn't Dr. Heidingsfelder trying to show people up. I don't think those types of comments are really appropriate, and your smirking is really not appropriate either.
Any other comments? Okay, we have one item of old business, approval of ordinance 2023-24, finance and taxation, chapter 3, et cetera. This is the second and final reading, so we've had the discussion and we've had the first reading. Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Any questions of DeRuda?
Not from me.
Brad?
All good.
Nothing? All in favor?
Aye.
Any,
But he
can you hear me?
visually
Brad,
approved.
can you hear me?
No.
I'm sorry, I was muted again. My apologies. I voted aye.
It's approved. Okay, there are 3 items of new business. Under tab 2, where's Bruce? You dodged a bullet last time, buddy, but we brought you back. So this is to consider approval of a resolution 2023-06. So now we all know all about this stuff.
All right. Good morning. The Charleston Hazard Mitigation Manual is actually just a compilation of the risk assessments and enforcement efforts in relation to floodplain management for all the jurisdictions within Charleston County. Each jurisdiction has their own little subsection within the hazard mitigation manual. Ours is maybe 12, 13 pages. I don't know. I didn't count the pages, but the action plan and the status report. The status report is the basically the risk vulnerability study. I don't know if we can really call it a study. It's our efforts and what we see on the island and how we go about mitigating to minimize any floodplain issues that we see active or past from past storms. The action plan is how do we go about that mitigation effort? What do we do? And one of them is, are you enforcing the current codes? Well, by state law, we have to. So yes, we're doing that. Are there other efforts like dumping in a riverine? Do you have a policy or procedure, or who handles that effort to make sure that's not happening? Well, that's a combined effort between lakes and ponds with KICA and also Jim Jordan through environmental. So those are, the whole mitigation manual is just a, like I said, a compilation of those efforts by every jurisdiction. It doesn't require us to perform any studies. There's no money involved, other than that if we don't adopt this, it's going to adversely affect our CRS rating. So that being said, I will open it up to any questions that y'all may have that you need answered about this manual, but it's a living document. There is representatives from every jurisdiction. We meet on a quarterly basis, discuss various things, whether it's floodplain issues, outreach programs, education efforts, are all built within the CRS program that everybody receives credits for, depending on, I mean, the CRS manual is made up of 7 main topics, and there's subsections to that, and there's a multitude of subsections that every jurisdiction can decide to enforce, not enforce. If you enforce something, whether it's education, you're doing education efforts, you get credit for it. And that's kind of what the basis of this manual is. It is reviewed by FEMA. It was reviewed earlier this year. for content purposes, not, and what they found is there's a small amendment that has to be made. That amendment is the fact that they were wanting to know, they being FEMA, were wanting to know but what our disaster assessment preparation was. How do we handle it? Is it in-house? Do we have somebody, third party, taking care of it? And all that information will be combined within the manual. In fact, Sean is the floodplain manager for the county. I talked to him last week, and those efforts are just about complete. And once he compiles that, and with all the adoption that's happening within all the other jurisdictions, which has to happen by the end of this year, so he can send that manual back to FEMA at the end of the year with those amendments attached to it. And that's pretty much all this document is.
Do we have, are we obtaining maximum credits? Are there any things, other issues that we could possibly do to get more credits?
There are some other efforts we could do, and that would be is going to be presented at the council retreat. We are actually being audited. I received all the information Thursday of last week for the audit in March. FEMA will be here, FEMA representative will be here in March to audit everything that we currently do and what we're proposing to do. There again, that information will go back and they'll tabulate it. It takes about a year, and then we'll come up with a new CRS rating, whatever that'll be.
So the concern we had during the first reading is if this resolution would require us or include any kind of financial obligations, and I think you mentioned that already, that's not the case. Yeah. And I think the second concern was that this resolution would require us to do something we don't want to do. And I also hear you, that's also not the case. Yeah. So this is really in line with what we are doing anyway, because it's the right thing to do.
Right. It basically just stipulates our floodplain management activities that we're doing, and those activities are based on our flood ordinance that we have in place.
So, Bruce, I'm just trying to catch up for a couple of things. So I understand the plan's updated every 5 years. What are the kinds of changes that were made in this current version?
In this version, Charleston County did looked at some ways to resolve the issues in the Shadow Moss area as far as the flooding that happens there during a normal rain event, basically. They looked at those efforts. They are still continuing with those efforts. They've come up with a plan to basically, it's looking at the infrastructure, storm drains, and that type of thing.
Okay. Was there anything on the Kiowa around our community that changed?
No, as far as updates,
yes.
No, there was nothing for Kiowa specifically.
Is our plan in concert with the community association, or do they have a separate one?
No, we're in concert with them. So there's efforts within our mitigation plan that involve KICA. Lakes and ponds would be one example of that. There's other efforts that they do, like this. Anytime we have an audit, there's a section within CRS that talks about your mitigation efforts for any flooding issues on roadways and that type of thing. I think we all are aware of the study that KICA did.
Right.
That got submitted this past year, being 2023, and for credit. And it was quite an elaborate study that they did. And we did have some repetitive loss properties under CRS. If you've received monies from FEMA, and this is going to seem strange out here, or a minimum of $1,000, you're put on a repetitive loss category for that particular home. Then we're required as a municipality to send out a letter to that homeowner to figure out what happened. Why did you see flooding? Well, and I think we had 12 homes, and most of them had to do on secondary streets, had to do with storm drainage issues, from clogging to there were breaks in some lines. Well, Keika Public Works had gone through and mitigated those and taken care of fixing what needed to be fixed. The only one that I'm aware of that is still outstanding is off of Eugenia. If you know, part of Eugenia is not paved, doesn't have storm drains. And from what I understand, a couple of years ago, Keika had put it to those residents in a vote that if they wanted that road paved and storm drains put in. I'm assuming, I don't know it to be a fact, but I'm assuming there were some assessments that went with that. And those residents that live along that road voted no. They didn't want anything. And so that area will continue to flood. There's just no way around it.
So we had this very unusual rain event, storm event this Sunday that I think everybody was surprised about. So as a little bit of a side question, so how do you guys now take that, you know, learning from Sunday, what you saw, and I think there were quite a few incidences that were unusual and new to us in certain areas. So how does that, you know, is incorporated in all these activities now?
Yeah, those issues are still being reviewed at this point in time. But what we do is try to determine as a collective group, and that being Keika, Jim Jordan, basically all of us, that make up the floodplain management sort of review group for the island. And we'll look at those issues individually, determine what, if anything, can be mitigated. Sometimes a mitigation effort can be very cost effective. Sometimes it's going to take, you know, some money to be funded towards that mitigation effort. But we haven't got to that point yet. We're still reviewing what happened and what we can do.
I was
to
more
mitigate
asking,
it.
so this is a usual process that you follow after such an event?
It is a process.
Thank you.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Any other questions of?
A couple, a comment following up on Councilmember Heidingsfelder's question, and then just a further question regarding the kind of status of the plan. Bruce, in your follow-up to an event like this, which I think everybody would acknowledge was somewhat surprising, and at least from our regime standpoint, the impact was more severe than had been the case for Idalia. Water was about a foot higher. Do you I would suggest, but I don't know, you may do this in the ordinary course, to reach out to regimes or the property management companies for regimes or the boards of various regimes. Not every property, obviously, on the island is under a separate regime, but if there are, that's a good source of information as to what transpired, what the vulnerabilities are, and what the impact was on certain communities on the island. Because between Idalia and now this most recent storm, there were flooding events that had not transpired, certainly at Riverview, and I think at Inlet Cove and some others. So I would encourage you to reach out directly, you, Jim, Keika, and others, to the individual homeowner regimes to try to have a better understanding of what was happening on the ground in real time. The broader question, one of the issues when we discussed this the last time, I think you've addressed it, but I was still a little bit confused. I'm looking at the Charleston County website right now, and part of the confusion, at least again, the confusion I had was what we were looking at last time was the FEMA approved 2019 mitigation plan, and the whole section regarding Kiowa Island seemed very dated in some respects. In other respects, it was suggesting we were doing things that it wasn't clear that we were actually doing. But I think you said we're not mandated to do any of that. But I also now wasn't on the site last time is a 2023 annual update, which also has a Kiowa section entitled draft. So it's not clear to me, is this just, we're agreeing to the 2023 update of the 2019 mitigation plan, or is this the actual new 5-year plan?
This is actually the 2023 update.
Okay, so this is not, so there will still be an opportunity, because there's a lot of dated information in the Kiowa Island section, the 2019 plan. So next year, I assume we would have an opportunity to update and refresh all that. And the stuff that I saw in the 2023 update seemed perfectly fine and reasonable, and I think you talked about that.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That is correct. And some of the information that you're seeing from 2019 and 2023, some of that has already been updated. It just hadn't made it into the manual at this point in time.
Okay, thank you, Bruce.
Yep.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Next item is Resolution 2023-07, is a framework that we've all had a chance to review before. So, Michael, any comments you'd like to make? Or could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
So just as a background for everybody also here in the room, we felt it is appropriate to give at least the current council, we cannot do this for following council, but at least for the current council, give us a little bit of a framework when we as a council might want to get involved in matters that are outside of our jurisdiction, but do, under certain criteria, if they are fulfilled, do impact either our community or the Sea Islands as a whole. So that catalog gives us a little bit of a framework, of a guidance when we are when we should consider to get involved and be heard, as we have been, for example, submitting letters to Seabrook when the Bohicket Marina expansion was up for a vote. And we also had a letter recently submitted to the Charleston County Council as it relates to the health and wellness village along Betsy Carrison. So this should just give us a little bit of a framework and make our community understand under which circumstances we should get involved, or under which circumstances we want to have more input from the community if we should get involved. And with involved, of course, I mean just make a statement, since this is outside of our jurisdiction.
Good. Any other discussion?
Not for me.
Thanks to Aaron for getting that survey out and back and submitted. I thought that was exactly what we had discussed. I think that is, it wasn't 100%. Interestingly, it wasn't as high as the putt-putt. I don't think it was. I think the opposition to the putt-putt was even higher, but it showed how people really felt. So that would be my only suggestion, possibly. When Michael wrote this, in the reference, I think under community support, we could be a little bit more explicit and say about, a survey, monkey survey, how it would be done.
It's actually in there. It's maybe with the support of a survey, like in the case of the putt-putt plan. So that's exactly what Aaron did. And I think it turned out, very conclusive. So, and helped us to make the right, provide the right wording to our letter to the Charleston County.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
And the last is from the Ways and Means Committee, the continuation of Mr. Wilson as the town attorney for 3 months starting January 1, 2024 through March 31, 2024, the rate of $300 an hour. Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
The only issue I would raise, which is the reason I voted in the negative at Ways and Means Committee, is not with the idea of extending for 3 months and providing some hopefully some transition. It's that I didn't see any basis for a 50% increase in the hourly rate that we had just negotiated a couple of months ago. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, it's approved. All right, we have on the agenda an executive session to receive legal advice regarding the 2013 development agreement. Could I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Okay, let's go into executive session. I don't know how long this is going to be, so.
Brad, can you hear us?
Mic's on.
I can.
There you
Okay.
go.
Just took a second.
Okay. Could I have a motion to come out of executive session, please?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
No decisions were made and no actions were taken. As mayor, I'm going to authorize Joe, our town attorney, to pursue an interpretation of the ARDA in accord with the procedure set out in the ARDA. Council member comments. Michael?
Nothing from my side, thank you.
Russ?
Nothing, thank you.
Brad, any comments?
Just a couple, Mr. Mayor. Haven't had a chance to get together since the Charlton County Council public hearing last week relating to the Island Park Place development, also referred to as the Health and Wellness Village. It was actually extraordinarily well attended. I attended and spoke, as did a number of members of the Kiowa Island community, some in support, others in opposition. I had simply noted for the record to the council members when I spoke that they should have received the results of the survey, and at a high level, I summarized that. There was a fairly robust discussion of a wide range of issues. I made the point that I encouraged the council members to not only look at the high level results, which showed that approximately 80% of respondents, nearly 900, opposed the Health and Wellness Village project as proposed, as per the application that was submitted. But I note if you look through the respondents who actually provide additional narrative content, which was about half of the respondents, what really came through was both from the proponent standpoint as well as the opponents, is the people weren't necessarily opposed to the concept of having more accessible healthcare services on and around Kiowa Island, but it was with regard to the scope and scale of the particular project as well as the range of permitted uses. The upshot is, at the end, I noted that a process that had worked well to achieve a mutually beneficial outcome was for the developer to actually sit down and negotiate with key stakeholders what a project scale and scope might be acceptable. And I pointed to what happened with Riverstone and community members and the Andale West project as an exemplar in that regard. Several of the council members, including the chairman, pushed the developer as to whether they would be willing and amenable to actually sitting down and coming up with a revised proposal, and the developer so indicated. And as a result, as you may be aware, what was going to be on the calendar for first reading tomorrow, 2 days from now, has been deferred or postponed till at least the January Charleston County Council meeting, and who knows what will happen in the interim there. I was approached afterwards by the developers' representatives, the developer, to see what role I or we might have in trying to facilitate a conversation. I said, personally, I'm happy to do so, but I made very clear that I did not speak for the town or the council, nor, quite frankly, the Kiowa Island residents, let alone Johns Island residents. But we'll have to see how this process plays out. But supposedly there is an intent on the part of the developer now to reach out to various stakeholders and see if there's a new path forward that would be different from what was proposed and was going to be before the Charleston County Council. The only other thing I'd like to do at this juncture, in light of the executive session, is so the community kind of understands what we're talking about with respect to these various issues, is put into the record the 12/4, the December 4th letter we received from the KICA board regarding the Sam Spit matter as it pertains to the ARDA. The 12/14, December 14th response from Kiowa Partners to that KICA letter, as well as the 12/15 or December 15th opinion we received from Amy Armstrong, the General Counsel and Executive Director of SCELP regarding this matter. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Joe, since this will be the last time in this year that we'll see each other over the weeks to come, but I just need to thank you. It's been wonderful to work with you these 3 years. It's been a challenging time. You've been very courageous, and you have represented all of the town and all of the residents in this town. And on behalf of them, thank you very, very much for the service that you've provided to all of us. So, thank you, Joe. Citizen comments. Hearing none. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.